Hi, everyone. Welcome to another week of Future of Money. I am here with Tom Hood, President and CEO of the Maryland Association of CPAs, as well as the CEO and President of the Business Learning Institute. And Tom is so amazing. He's one of the most influential people within the accounting profession. And I'm so excited to chat with you today, Tom.
It's great to be here, Denise. I'm looking forward to this.
Yay. So, for those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
All right, so I am a CPA. Actually, I got into accounting to be an FBI agent, but then found out my eyesight was too poor, so I ended up having to make a living as an accountant CPA. So I went into accounting, got my CPA way back in 1982. I spent about half my career in corporate accounting. I've never been in public accounting, worked in accounting shops like finance company, architecture, printing, and then last was highway construction for a big stint, and ended up as the CEO of the Maryland Association of CPAs, and we started the Business Learning Institute about 18 years ago.
That's so exciting. And the Maryland Association of CPAs is one of the most popular, if I dare say, CPA associations within the country. Can you tell us, it is, your social media presence and online presence is so awesome.
Well, thank
Can you tell us a little bit about what makes your association so popular? What have you done that's kind of shaking up the accounting industry?
Well, I think it has to do really with, I think the transformative events for us was the CPA Vision Project, which actually was in 1999, kind of the first year or two I was on the job. And that project, started by the AICPA, I volunteered for. And it involved future forums with CPAs in Maryland, but also all over the country, to shape their future and find out what they wanted. So that was kind of the genesis of our Business Learning Institute. The second, I think, big one was social media. I mean, we got into social media. We saw a bunch of information about the internet being disruptive to associations and the opportunity to take social media and connect to a broader audience. And we got into blogging in 2006. Twitter, Facebook. We even played around with the virtual world of Second Life for a while, which I know we're going to talk a little bit about digital currency. So I was buying Linden dollars before anyone even knew what they were.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so anyhow, those events, I think, combined with an amazing board of directors that were visionary and strategic. And so they kind of pushed us to encourage us to be innovative and try new things and really try to take more of a leading role for our profession, for our members in Maryland and beyond, to give them that competitive advantage, if you will. And that's been kind of what we've strived for the last, 18 years.
That's awesome. And it shows you've done an amazing job. You have the Innovation Summit and the Digital CPA event in December. Can you tell us, you hit on so many awesome points. So about the future of the profession, you talked a little bit about being a thought leader, social media presence, really trying to stay ahead of the curve of trends. What do you see now, 18 years later, that accountants should pay attention to stay ahead of the curve?
So it's funny, we actually just partnered with a leading futurist and best-selling author. He's one of the top 10 business minds in the world, according to Forbes, a guy named Daniel Burrus. And so we worked with him for like the last 6 months. We just had an event this month, as a matter of fact, earlier. But so he's helping us think about trends differently, because one of the stats that I saw, there was a CPA of the Future study by CPA.com that said only 8% of CPAs are future ready. And what do they mean by future ready? In other words, being proactive and looking at trends ahead of time, helping businesses be proactive, right? Which is what businesses really want from their CPA or accountants. So as I think about that, we've been watching trends for a while, and what we see are what I call the three big mega trends. So the big mega trends are technology. and technology and its exponential pace, which I think is the thing that could catch CPAs blindside by. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Second one is demographics, right? This whole, I call it the shift change, right? As we now, this is the first year that millennials, there are more millennials in the workplace than any other generation. And I still have plenty of my members, I'm a baby boomer, who are kind of confounded by this new generation. And I said, you ain't seen nothing yet till Gen Z comes, right? Which is only a couple years away.
Oh, gosh.
So this whole demographic generational thing is number two. And the third one is globalization. And the notion that there's more growth, in fact, overseas in the middle markets, India, China, and all the emerging countries, than there is in the United States, which kind of has relatively flat growth right now. And, what could we be doing as accounting and CPAs in this virtual world where you don't need to be physically present? I know small firms who are operating in, 8 or 10 countries and all over the United States. So anyhow, those three trends are driving everything else. And that's what's, I think, causing lots of both opportunity and in some cases chaos amidst our profession.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to do a quick follow-up question before we jump into digital currency. You mentioned that the speed of change in technology is what might catch accountants blindsided. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's funny. Ever since the CPA Vision projects in 1998, which looked out to 2011, and the number one driver of change back then was technology. In 2011, the AICPA updated that. It was called the CPA Horizons 2025 project, looking out to the year 2025. And the number one driver of change was technology. So it's almost like, and I remember we were early on in XBRL. If you think about some of these technologies, cloud accounting, which is another one, I hear CPAs all the time go, I'm kind of getting tired of hearing about this stuff because it's not like come to fruition yet all the way. And what's going on with technology is Moore's law, right? Which is the exponential change. Every 18 months, processing power doubles. Well, what Dan Burris added to that for us was, he said there's three drivers of technology that are combining. Processing power every 18 months doubling. Storage capacity every 18 months doubling. And bandwidth, the ability to access the internet in bigger and bigger chunks, right, is doubling every 18 months. Those three are what he calls digital accelerators. So if you ever look at an exponential curve, we as CPAs, actually as humans, think linear. We think in curves that are gradual like that, right? Mm-hmm. 1, 2. Exponential is gradual and then sudden, right? They call it the hockey stick. Mm-hmm. So when exponential change hits hard, right, it's almost mind-boggling in terms of how fast it goes. And so what's happening in the technology area, this is the 50th anniversary of Moore's Law. So that means processing power has been doubling for 50 years. Wow. That's why you right now have, one of these, smartphone, and that's more powerful than all the computers that sent the first rocket to the moon in the 70s.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Next year is that this thing will be double. It will be better camera, more storage, faster processor, right? And then the year after that, it will be double. And so my point is that many of us have been saying, yeah, the technology change is big, but it really hasn't truly happened yet. So one of the stats that they ask CPAs to ask about is, so will robotics and artificial intelligence or Internet of Things, right, or digital currency, will they affect businesses in terms of how you're dealing as an accountant in the next 5 years? 80% of them, Denita, said no.
Really?
Right. So they're saying that, well, I've heard about this for a while. It's not really going to happen. And the point is, 3D printing, robotics, digital currencies, yes, they're happening exponentially now. And that's what worries me, because if you were saying, it's really not going to happen, by the time it happens, it's going to be too late. Like, you won't even know what passed you by.
Oh my goodness. 80% don't believe that any of that's going to affect their profession, their livelihood.
In 5 years. And I'm thinking it's like 1 year.
Right. I know. I'm like, it's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, let's talk a little bit about digital currency because that hits on so many different areas. Globalization, technology. I mean, just the concept of digital currency is so fascinating and scary and maybe overwhelming from a compliance standpoint for an accountant. Can you talk a little bit about what are your thoughts on digital currency? We'll just start there.
Well, my thoughts are it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unlike social media, right? There was a lot of people going, the social media thing, I'm just waiting for it to pass. It's way beyond passing. Then the next question becomes, so which do I have to think about? Bitcoin, and I think it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, Bitcoin may or may not be what is the next version and the one that mainstreams, but something like it is going to happen. I mean, I go back, as I said earlier, we were doing Second Life in like 2007 and 2008. And in Second Life, there was a whole digital currency called Linden dollars, and it had an exchange, and there were people that were trading in it. In fact, the Congress was looking at it from a Federal Reserve standpoint to say, do we have to regulate this new currency? Because there was literally millions and millions and millions of dollars being traded globally on that exchange. So the point was, and there were some CPAs who were trying to figure it out, I think CPAs are going to have to understand what's involved in this digital currency because it is going to happen. It is happening. I mean, Amazon takes it. I've seen CPA firms who are now starting to say that they're taking it. Every new accounting package, for the most part, has built-in cryptocurrency, functionality built in. And I think it's something we have to start paying attention to sooner rather than later because it is happening. You're going to encounter someone that's got that on their balance sheet and how they're accounting for it and all those other things.
So true. And it kind of goes along with your point of being proactive as an accountant. CPAs are looked upon as trusted advisors, and their clients expect them to at least know a little bit about this information to help guide them or direct them.
I've been using to find a whole bunch of experts on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's got like a whole, I don't know if it's a university kind of thing, but they've got a whole thing that kind of educates you on Bitcoin. Tons of stuff on YouTube. I mean, just Google Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. SlideShare is another great source. I did a LinkedIn post earlier this year that kind of had some references to where you could find more information about Bitcoin. And again, Bitcoin isn't the only one. I just would look at cryptocurrencies or digital currencies in a Google search and begin to scan what's out there. I think the other part is whenever you're scanning this stuff, look at the credibility of who's out there. So if you find an article or more importantly, like a social piece, and there's only like 6 people that have liked it or followed it, you could probably be sure that might not be the most accurate thing. You're going to look for where there's a lot of people saying that they've looked at stuff or commenting on it and look for the quality of that. But I think CPAs need to at least put this on their radar to say, I'm looking for what's going on in this environment. We're going to start looking for more resources to try to educate our members from that standpoint, because I think it is a pretty important growing trend.
It's awesome. And it's so amazing that you're so forward thinking to support your association members. And if you are a CPA listening to this, there is a council, Digital Currency Council, based in New York, strictly for professionals that are within the accounting and legal field to learn more about how to deal with this.
I'm writing that down.
Yes, Digital Currency Council.
All right.
Yeah, awesome. So for CPAs that we talked a little bit about cloud accounting, and that's still a discussion within the profession. In addition to that, or maybe that's the only thing, what 3 things would you suggest to a CPA or firm to really take a look at now to stay future ready?
So I would say first is you have to understand cloud accounting. There was a recent stat that came out of the AICPA big meeting that we were just at, Spring Council, and the stat was 61% of small to mid-sized businesses want to pursue cloud accounting to make things more efficient, get better, quicker results on their numbers so they know where they're going. And only 10% of CPAs actually were capable of helping them from that standpoint. That's a big gap.
Wow.
It's also a huge opportunity.
Yes.
So I think that's number one, cloud accounting. Social, the next part is social media. I still have CPAs who are like, well, what should I do something with this? Social media, both from a client connection, potential client connection, and learning. They're the three things I think that every CPA should be pursuing. How do I keep up with things using social media and my connections to filter it? Number two is making sure I can keep in touch with my current client base through social when they're on it. And then the third one is looking at that potential clients. And again, we've got small firms who operate nationally and globally, primarily through social media, right? And getting placement. So that would be number two. The third one is the area that we're really excited about, that we're working on, is the notion of understanding how to be proactive, how to anticipate future trends, right? Mm-hmm. And the exciting thing for us, Denise, is with Dan Burris's work, we've learned that there are actually certainties to the future that you actually can predict. And that if a CPA learns how to look at what is certain, clear away all the other fog of uncertainty, they can be much more helpful to their clients from a proactive standpoint, but even to themselves in terms of knowing where to position and find opportunities. And those revolve around three hard trends, not surprisingly: technology being one, demographics being number two. Like, we know that everybody who's Gen X is going to turn a year older next year, right? But we somehow don't think about those. Why is succession planning a big crisis right now? Did we not know that all those people were going to need to retire at some point? And then the third one is government regulations. Oh boy. So in other words, will there be more complex tax laws next year than this year? Yes, there will. So if that's true, what should a CPA be doing to be proactive with their clients and with themselves to figure that stuff out, right? Amazing opportunity. So that's kind of where we're starting to run, which we're working on a program to help CPAs learn how to do that, as well as sharing a series of opportunities that we're developing through our grassroots town halls and all of our meetings with our members. So that's where I see those three things that we should be thinking about.
That's so exciting. And what I'm hearing when you say that, Tom, is really adopting more of an entrepreneurial mindset, which I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if this is something that might be a little bit of a challenge, just to switch from being more of that traditional linear thinking CPA to really just being more of an artist and really adopting trends that may not seem to fit within the profession, but do. Do you think would be an?
I think it is true, and I think one of the things that gave me hope is when we ran this big event with Dan, as we're developing this program, I saw more creativity from CPAs than I've ever seen before in a short period of time, and what I attributed to. Dan Hood, the editor of Accounting Today, was part of this panel he ran. What I attributed to was the notion that once they got over the fact that some of these trends are certain and you can predict them and rely on them, it freed them up to be creative. So I think what the CPA in them wanted was, I want to know there's something I can hang my hat on that I can say, this is a future fact. And if it's a future fact, then we can say, what can we do about it? Versus a future trend that they want to argue about. Well, I don't know if that's really going to happen or not. I don't know whether that technology is going to get better, next year or not. Now they can go, I can get rid of that. I know it's true. Now what can I do about it? And I thought that, to me, is, I think what you just said, the notion of balancing that trust and integrity with the ability to be a little bit creative. And I think that's absolutely essential. So I think the point is, no one's telling CPAs to get rid of the foundations of trust and integrity and objectivity, but we are saying apply it in a future-focused way, right? Looking out the windshield instead of the rearview mirror. And that's what our clients really want. That's what, right? And whether we're inside a company or we're an advisor as an accountant or CPA on the outside. So I think you're exactly right.
That's awesome. And I love the way you phrased that. We're going to end there. What's the best way to connect with you, Tom?
Twitter is probably the best way. I'm at Tom Hood. LinkedIn also. But no, you could always email me, old school, at tom@macpa.org. In fact, I think we met by social media, if I remember right.
We totally
And
did.
yeah, all the coolest people I know, I think I've met through social media.
That's awesome. I love that you walk your talk. And that email is now old school. That's kind of funny. Well, great. Thanks so much, Tom. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Future of Money.
Thank you, Dina. Have a great one.
Thank you, you too.